Hi class, welcome back to Mr. Romero's Algebra 1 Honors class, and today we're going to be going over the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is useful when you have what's called a quadratic equation. So that's anything that's going to have an x squared in it, and it has an equal sign, so it's set equal to something. So we call this standard form, and that's when you have ax squared plus bx plus c, and then it's going to be set equal to something. And typically when we're doing the quadratic formula, we're solving for zeros, so we're going to set that equal to 0. And these three terms, your a, b, and c, are very important. Your a and your b are coefficients because they come in front of an x, and your c is a constant. But these are very important to the quadratic formula. And so to remember the quadratic formula, we all know the tune "To Pop Goes the Weasel." So we go, the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so this is what x is going to equal when we set it equal to 0. So what we're doing is we're trying to find these certain points on a graph where x hits this x-axis. And so if we have a parabola, which is some type of quadratic equation, what we're looking for and what we're finding are these points right here, because they're what touch the x-axis. And so with this handy-dandy equation, we can find those points every time, even if they're not real, but that's time for a later lesson. So we're going to go over a few examples right now. So here I have x squared minus 2x minus 15. Now I know this looks a lot different from all that, but we're going to get to it. So you think, well, where's the a term, Mr. Romero? Well, if you don't see anything in front, that means that the coefficient is 1. So we know that a equals 1. And here, we know that our b term is going to equal negative 2 because there's a negative 2 in front of the x. And we know that our c is going to equal negative 15 because it's the only constant out here. And so what we're looking for is when this equals 0. So we can use our quadratic formula to find that. So we're going to set this equal. X equals negative b, and what's a negative times a negative? A positive. So 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so a negative times a negative again, is a positive. So we're going to have negative 2 squared, which is equal to 4, minus 4 times a, and remember our a value is 1, and times c, which is negative 15. And that's going to be all over 2 times our a value. And so the first step that we want to do is multiply this 4ac together so it's easier for us to figure out. So x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 4 times 1 times negative 15 is 60, negative 60. So negative 60, and we're subtracting that, so it's going to end up being a positive 60. And that's still over 2. So now we can simplify what's in the square root to 2 plus or minus the square root of 64 all over 2. Now, does the square root of 64 look familiar? Here, we can simply reduce that to 8, because 8 times 8 is 64. Now, I know this plus and minus symbol is a little weird, but really all that means is that we're going to have two answers. So we can treat this as 2 plus 8 over 2, and 2 minus 8 over 2. So 2 plus 8 is equal to 10. And 2 minus 8 is equal to negative 6. So now that we simplify these, we know that x equals 5 and x equals negative 3. So those are our solutions. That's where it touches this x-axis.